Whenever Tom Homan is asked about the cost of mass deportation, he always skirts around the question.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is that worth it?
He always deflects by saying, is national security worth it to you? Making it seem as if though this whole campaign is about the preservation of national security for the United States. But it isn't. Because when it comes down to it, undocumented immigrants aren't as big of a threat to national security as Tom Homan would have you to believe, because let's not forget that undocumented immigrants have a lower crime rate than U.S. citizens. I mean, immigrants in general are less likely to commit crimes than U.S. citizens, but undocumented immigrants specifically have lower crime rates than U.S. citizens. For example, this study comparing crime rates between undocumented immigrants, legal immigrants, and native-born U.S. citizens in Texas, we find that undocumented immigrants have substantially lower crime rates than native-born citizens and legal immigrants across a range of felony offenses. Relative to undocumented immigrants, U.S.-born citizens are over 2 times more likely to be arrested for violent crimes, 2.5 times more likely to be arrested for drug crimes, and 4 times more likely to be arrested for property crimes. But wait, there's more to why we know that this isn't about national security. There's always more. Because according to the Department of Homeland Security themselves, it is actually domestic violence extremists, and in particular, white supremacist extremists, who are the biggest threats to national security. Among domestic violence extremists, racially and ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically white supremacist extremists, will remain the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland. Spikes in other domestic violence extremist threats probably will depend on political or social issues that often mobilize other ideological actors to violence, such as immigration, environmental, and police-related policy issues. White supremacist extremists have demonstrated long-standing intent to target racial and religious minorities, members of the LGBTQ+ community, politicians, and those they believe to promote multiculturalism and globalization at the expense of white supremacist extremist identity. Since 2018, they have conducted more lethal attacks in the United States than any other domestic violence extremist movement. And furthermore, we know that this isn't about national security because Trump's administration pardoned 1,500 people who were involved in the January 6th insurrection. Let's not forget that a lot of these people are involved with a lot of these right-wing militia movements in the United States, many of them affiliated with white supremacist movements. After all, let's not forget that many of them, some of them Proud Boys, love to wear gear that says 6 million wasn't enough, or these cute little Camp Auschwitz shirts. So we know, Tom Homan, that this isn't about national security. This is about trying to finish what the United States couldn't finish in Mexican repatriation and then later in the 1950s during Operation Wetback. This is nothing more than another attempt at ethnic cleansing. Because no, undocumented immigrants don't pose this massive existential threat to national security like you would have people believe. Undocumented immigrants, again, commit less crime, and we contribute. Let's not forget that in 2022 alone, we contributed $96.7 billion. And again, this only includes undocumented immigrants without employment authorization. If these people were given employment authorization or a pathway to legalization, that number could increase to over $130 billion. Don't let these fascists trick you. This is nothing more than ethnic cleansing. Resist, resist, resist.